Here we go. Welcome to all, first of all, our panelists, second of all, to all our guests, and third of all, to the whole Alliance team, which is also growing. And thank you so much for being here tonight. It is our first 2022 Ask Alliance. And we're here to ask our professionals about the trends for 2022. I'm going to introduce you in a sequence. If you want to say just a little something about who you are. We're going to start with Sheila. Sheila, I'm going to put a spotlight on you so we know who you are.
Hello. Now it's stopped. Is it still or is it moving?
It's moving. We can see you. It's all good. Go for it.
Sorry about that. So my name's Sheila Semrou. I own Sheila Semrou Consulting, LLC. I'm a Wisconsin registered interior designer. I've been a designer for over 30 years. I have a background in architectural planning, space planning. I have a lot of experience doing both commercial and residential projects. And I'm passionate about all sorts of design and helping people no matter what it is. If it's simple fixes to an existing home, a new home design, solutions for staging, you name it. I don't know.
Sheila, thank you. Then we're going to go to Bill Feldman. Hold on just a sec. I'm going to turn at the spotlight.
Okay.
1 sec.
Sure.
Of course, it's taking time for me to find you. There you go.
There I am. All right. I'm Bill Feldman. I own William Feldman Studio, LLC. And I am currently, majority of my work is in residential design, but I've been a licensed architect for most of my career, and goes back probably beyond 30 years. The majority of the years that I was practicing, I was doing commercial architecture. And in the last 10, 15 years, I've been focusing on additions and remodeling and some new construction. And I too am really sort of a solutions kind of person, looking at solutions, in terms of how to expedite something within a budget. And I also have a background in real estate sales too. And so I did that for a few years and enjoyed it. So that's my background. And
thank you for being here, Bill.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And then number 3, Jordan Miller from All Right.
Awesome. Hello.
Here you go.
There we go. Awesome. I'm Jordan Miller. I am the 3rd generation. I actually, my family started this company back in 1969, so a little over 52 years now. And I will be the 3rd generation in about 4 years when I purchased the company from my father as well. And very excited. The 4th generation just walked out the door as well. He's 2, but I've basically grew up in the industry, very much a passion. We do all exterior remodeling and installation. So roofing, siding, windows, gutters, doors, decking, and insulation work. We're also a big trade ally with the Focus on Energy program as well. But my background realistically is in design. I love being able to help people bring their vision when they end up seeing, a lot of contractors bring in a very small sample of something. And I love to be able to take that and be able to actually create an actual rendering of what the image will look like on a picture of their home specifically. And we use 3D images and things for that too. So I love keeping up with the trends, and I actually just won the Wisconsin Remodeler of the Year Silver Award for exteriors through NARI, as well as the Education Award as well for my outreach program. So
congratulations and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Right now we're going to take 2 seconds once I would be able to again remove the spotlight. I just want to go through the room of our realtors who are here. For whatever reason, this is very slow. And just wave hello, please. Here, Margaret, you're on spotlight. I don't know how that happens. we have Tareen. And we have we have Edward here.
Hi.
Curtis.
Everybody.
Hey,
DJ Campbell.
Hello, everybody.
I know I'm gonna miss someone, not because it's just my screen. Hi, Aro.
hey, Erdo.
Alexis, you're gonna have this feature down by the end of this Zoom call. You're gonna have this.
What it was about. There's Lori.
Say hi, Lori.
And replace Spotlight with him. All right. Anyone I missed? Now, while I was doing this, I was hoping that our attendees were thinking of some questions to ask. Please utilize the chat that's available. We're going to be looking for that. And with that, we have some questions that were submitted prior to us, and we're going to start. You guys unmute yourself. Who has the first question, and go for it,
I can start.
please.
I would like to ask about the about wallpaper. Has the popularity of wallpaper returned? How should it be used? Maybe I can even ask, is there room to do all of the walls in a room wallpaper, or should you just use one wall in the room wallpaper? Let's start with that.
Me to answer? Or who's going to answer?
Who can answer that question?
I can a little, I guess.
Yes.
Okay,
If
so
you're talking about the exterior wallpaper, then Jordan can tackle that one. Otherwise, it's probably Sheila, right?
it looks like brick, right? I would say that there's some mixed feelings about it. Wallpaper seemed to be going away, and then it was just paint. Then there were textured walls, and they want more. Many people want to see more luxurious walls, actually using plaster and rich finishes, but still it's a type of paint. But there is some interest in wallpaper because you just can't get that pattern or that depth with paint and plaster. So I would say use it sparingly, special locations, maybe one wall in a room, maybe in a powder room. I've seen it done on a ceiling of a powder room. I would say it's okay, but you have to be cautious about how much you use, where you use it. The patterns and things can change. It's so much easier to paint over paint. So I would say use it sparingly. That's just I don't know if the other two have any thoughts or comments from what you've seen.
Well, I'm curious if it's sort of a cyclical thing, wallpaper, kind of comes into fashion and what's your thought on that, Sheila?
Yeah, I agree. I think that happens with a lot of things. They come in and then people get tired of it and then it goes away and it's like, oh, wallpaper bad. For a while, people were doing wallpaper borders, residentially and commercially. Right now, I think no one wants to see that anywhere. But one wall of a pattern or, it'll bring you a depth of something that you can't find elsewhere, whether it's botanicals, nature. So yeah, it is cyclical and I would use it sparingly.
And I wouldn't use it on the exterior.
No, okay, good. Good answer.
Awesome. Who is coming next? Curtis, do you have a question? Okay, I see you on mute.
Yeah, I think this is probably targeted more to Jordan, but so obviously we all know that there's different kinds of roofs, like metal, shingles, cedar shakes, and essentially like what are the pros and cons of each? And then when it comes to that, you can also example of like the lifespan of each kind of roofing design. And if there's any like tidbits or tips of how a homeowner could possibly at least extend the lifespan of the roof as much as possible.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So You're 100% right. There's a lot of different options when it comes to roofing products that are out there. And we're even starting to see with the start of Tesla, but also solar paneled roofs that are actually solar shingles that were actually starting to come to light. We were approached by Tesla to start the training process for that. And that may be a possibility as well in the near future. But there's a few other companies that actually have approached us with also solar shingles that are going to be competition with them. So I know that goes outside of what your question was, but it's kind of cool to see what the new technology that's kind of coming to be. Now, when it comes to cedar shakes specifically, a lot of it is the different subdivisions that were out there were requiring cedar shakes for many, many years. And we're starting to see that become less and less prevalent. They're either switching over to an asphalt or they're offering an option for a Da Vinci type or an actual maintenance-free route because cedar shakes do have maintenance that are still behind them. They're a very pretty product, but they do end up having their inherent concerns with leaking issues, as well as the fact that if you do have a leak, it's very challenging to find, but also for the fact that you do have to stain it every few years as well in order to, first of all, maintain its quality, but also maintain its aesthetic look. Too, when it comes to real cedar shakes. Da Vinci is a synthetic product that's out there that gives you that very similar look, if not almost identical to it, without all the maintenance that's involved. And now, because of the COVID and because of the cost of materials, we've actually seen those two products starting to become very similar almost in price as far as that goes. So a maintenance-free route a lot of times is going to be a little more expensive a lot of times, but that's not the case anymore. And then as far as metal goes, we've seen metal kind of come into be as the newer technology, if you will, that's out there, but it wasn't really new when it came to light. They've been using it for barns and things for many years, but there's a reason that we didn't see it come into the main residential society until more recently, because they were meant for barns more. The metal roof itself, the basic standing seam roof, is very challenging, first of all, to do any maintenance on because you can't really walk on it. But you also end up having a noise issue when it comes to any type of rain or snow or hail. You're going to hear it. Another thing that a lot of guys, because it's a very high ticket item, they don't want to tell you is that it's also going to be affect cell phone reception as well, which most of us aren't going to think about when it comes to a metal roof. Now, there are some metal roofs that are that we definitely think are going to end up being superior and will last a long time. There's metal that have asphalt granulation on them, so they actually have granules on them and they kind of look like more of a dimensional shingle, like an asphalt dimensional shingle, but they are a true metal steel roof as well. And those are a very cool product, and those are definitely going to last a lot longer than some of the other basic metal roofs that are out there. I hope that helps.
I see a lot to think about. There's a lot of stuff, information I didn't even know about. It's very good. Thank you.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions, though, having a contractor that, reaching out to somebody and finding somebody that they can trust throughout the process as we get more technology and more things, it's all about trust. And I always tell my clients, if it feels a little strange with a contractor, maybe do some more research, because if it's not the right fit, it may not be the right fit. And if there's something weird, move on potentially or look for alternative options. It should feel comfortable working with a contractor.
I've got a quick question. The cedar shake versus the Da Vinci product you were referring to, which is more expensive?
So because of the prices of cedar and because we're seeing some shortages actually happening, we're seeing a pretty similar price range that they're actually coming to be. So they're actually getting pretty close in price range there now. When you're talking about the basic Da Vinci, you can get pretty ornate with Da Vinci. You can get they have a lot of different options now with the single width and the multi width, and actually you can mix and match colors. You can even do custom colors now with the Da Vinci product too. So you do get upwards of obviously a lot more expensive kind of quickly when it comes to that. But for the basic, you're looking at actually a similar price range now.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you.
We have a question from their attendee asking about how is your supply of materials today, the lead time for residential roof?
Definitely. So the lead time on a residential roof, we're actually finally starting to see most of the colors, if not all the colors, starting to come back. So what some of the more and more intelligent companies, I guess, that are out there, when they started seeing COVID happening, they really went and said, okay, we need to figure out a way to make sure that we can keep up with demand. So Certainteed specifically was one of the brands that we utilize, and they actually reduced their color line down to approximately 5 colors on their basic landmark shingle, and then 3 colors on their higher end shingles, and then pretty much eliminated their highest end, more decorative shingles throughout this whole process of COVID. And in order to do that, they've actually been able to maintain and keep up with demand in that way. But now we're finally starting to see them manufacturing almost all the colors again. And I'm sure we're going to start seeing the decorative shingles come to be starting to actually manufacture again too. So that's a good thing. That's very positive, which is awesome.
We love positive. That's how we want to have
Yes.
2022.
That's how it should be.
Who is next? Lori, are you up for, are you open? No? DJ? Oh.
Yes. How's everybody doing?
Good.
So this might be a question for Bill. Well, maybe everybody could. I'm curious. What does everybody think is the most popular style of home in our area?
Bill, want to start?
Well, go ahead, Jordan.
No, please. No, I said
All right.
Bill. Do you want to start?
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No,
Yeah.
please.
Well, everything's sort of kind of up. It's really a matter of trends that are happening. And I'm seeing a lot of farmhouse style, like board and batten style for new homes. The home building industry has sort of created its own language, really. And it's a sort of a conglomeration of a lot of different, maybe traditional styles. You see a lot of overlapping gables. It's almost an obligation to do that. But in terms of styles that I'm seeing a lot of, like I said, farmhouse style. In terms of anything that is sort of, in terms of architect design homes, we tend to see a little bit more contemporary, but they tend to be a little bit in the minority. Most of the homes that I'm seeing are kind of builder designed homes, and a lot of lap siding, a lot of different different materials, different cladding materials, stone, cultured stone. I see a lot of that. Some brick, but cultured stone seems to be very popular. And like I said, board and batten, or in conjunction with other cladding materials. So.
I have a feeling everyone wants to chime in. So Sheila, do you want to add?
Yeah.
Well, I would say it depends where the location is. There's a lot of subdivisions where they sort of dictate and they want things to all sort of blend together in similar cohesive styles. I think where you find a piece of land, or there's a small cottage and it's torn down to build something new, you have a lot more flexibility to do what you want. I think that a lot of the homes we see in our area are sort of a blend of different styles. They don't fit into just one. I think there is a desire for people, if they were going to build something new, I see more people wanting something more modern or contemporary. It's interesting. And it's hard to do if you buy an existing home to try to give it that look. It's almost impossible to change the style that much. I'd also like to ask the guys what their thoughts are on the increase in number of newer homes that have a white exterior, and what your thoughts are about that. And is that sticking around, or is that going away?
So what I've seen is over the last, I guess, almost 2 years with COVID, is that supply and demand has definitely been a thing, and white was definitely available. And what's really interesting, though, is now we're actually starting to see that white, especially in aluminums, is becoming not available as much anymore. Aluminum prices skyrocketed over the turn of the year, about 35% increase in all aluminums, which is pretty substantial, obviously, when you're looking at everything. So it's really interesting, I guess, that we had seen that shift, and now there's potentially going to be a shortage. So to answer your question, we'll see what we can actually get. With the LP products, though, it's all painted, so we're going to see that stay around, and I have a feeling that that's going to continue, especially with the white accents, or even the reversal with the darker accents and the white siding.
Mhm.
Have you seen maintenance issues with white siding just over time, streaking from rain and materials used on windows, window
Definitely.
frames and things like that?
Definitely, especially back in the day, the PVC, the wood grain coated aluminums really had an issue, and that was something that was widely used was white, because the technology really wasn't there to have the darker colors and be confident that the darker colors were actually going to last. So white was so prevalent at that point, and we did see a lot of fading, but you also got a lot of chalking action that was occurring, especially on aluminum and steel sidings that were out there as well. So yeah, you definitely had a maintenance issue, and I have a feeling that that's going to be very similar, but hopefully with the technologies and stuff that we have, we can realistically wash it a little bit easier, because the paints that are out there, or the finishes, are a little bit easier to work with now, that they won't cling to it as well, the dirt.
That's awesome. Let's go next. Who's that next?
Mine might be next.
Go for it, Margaret.
Okay, I think this question is probably for Sheila. It has to do with the interior colors for 2022, because we've been seeing the grays with the white trim for a while now. And I'm wondering what you're seeing now in 2022.
Yes, and that's one of those things that swings like a pendulum. You know, it goes from cool to warm to cool to warm, and gray was very popular, and right now we're seeing more warm grays and more warm neutrals. So it's definitely leaning toward the warmth. We're seeing some lovely vivid colors, and still some white. You see a lot of interiors that have a mix, you know, they're bright and they're light. Seeing a lot of kitchens that might have some color, but the countertops are lighter. I'm seeing a lot of upper cabinets that are white with light walls, and then maybe the depth of color is on the island and on the base cabinets. Walls, I'm personally still seeing a lot of paint. I'm seeing more of the use of accent walls. So one wall, and that's something I like. And I think for a long time, people didn't get it, or they thought it was a fad and it's out, but you can really enhance the space and the architecture by using paint to your advantage, you know, on an accent wall, to bring attention to a certain side of the room. In a bedroom, it's behind the headboard. In a living room, it might be on either side of a mantle or a fireplace. But yeah, the colors are definitely warmer, some use of color. I would say again, though, when someone's looking to sell a home, to have it neutral, have it light. Oh, there's some of the colors. These are Sherwin-Williams, their 2022 color mix. And it shows a nice variety of colors. Some of them are a little bit more muted, but overall there's a warmth to it and a natural sort of, many of them are inspired by colors found in nature. And yeah, you know, you might have many of the walls be alabaster, and you might have accent walls. Depends on the room, depends how much lighting you have, natural light, or there's also images of some of the exteriors. And there's actually a good, if you can go down to the, yeah, so there's a nice modern
There you
home.
go. Yep.
Yeah, there. So that, you're seeing a lot of that, you know, it's light and it's bright. And some natural materials, some wood on the floor, some wood on the cabinets, but also some color. I'm also going to talk about lighting just very briefly. I know there's been a big trend toward, and I like these lights over this island. The white glass does a good job of diffusing the light in a very, what's the term? It's an even way, an even distribution of the light, and it's attractive to look at. I know there's been a big trend toward the Edison lights, but they don't really always provide good lighting, and they're not always comfortable to the eye. So I'm a big fan of modern light fixtures with a white glass shade. Anyway, What else about color?
I'm gonna, yeah, switch to the exterior so you guys can add on, right?
Sure. But I also want to throw it out there actually at the Wisconsin Remodeler of the Year Awards when we were there. What I thought was really interesting, and obviously we don't do a lot with kitchens and baths, that we saw a lot of cabinetry starting to go with the blue tones, which was really interesting. And I mean, it was a lot of the award winners actually had blue tones for the cabinets and a combination. So that was really interesting to end up seeing. Yeah.
Was it a darker blue? Almost.
It was.
Yeah.
It was
I've
almost
seen
like
a lot
that right there.
Yeah.
Above that, the middle one.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yes. Neat.
And
Good.
yeah, doing that as the back cabinet and the white front cabinet, or vice versa. And it was very neat to end up seeing that as kind of a trend going on the interior, because it's kind of similar on the exterior that way. We've seen the grays and the dark grays kind of came to be, and I think a lot of it had to do with two different things. First of all, technology's caught up, and we're more confident in the colors lasting longer in the more maintenance-free products like the LPs and the vinyls that are out there. But we also have seen a rise in the technology. So us being able to render and show people physically what, the images may look like on even an example of their home, but where I can do it on, an image of their physical home, that takes away some of that fear, because it's definitely scary to end up changing your color dramatically from where you've been comfortable or what you've seen. And being able to actually see it physically has made a lot of my customers very, very happy, and got some very cool projects in the end.
And I want to show, I just got a magazine. I can show, what does it say? I can't read backwards. Design is nostalgic and new. And so if you look at the depth of color on these cabinets in this kitchen. So anyway.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else or another question?
Another question.
Edward, go for it.
All right. So we're all familiar with the, when you invest in something, you want to see the return for it eventually, right? So if we were to prioritize something in our house to either remodel or update, I wonder, okay, so I'm going to give 4 options here, and I kind of want to hear how you guys would rank it, okay? The first one will be kitchen. The second one will be bath. And the third one, outdoor space. And the fourth one is primary bedroom, like master bedroom. So out of these 4, I kind of want to know how you guys would rank them in terms of return of investment.
One of you guys want to start?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. I can't say that I feel like I'm an expert in answering that, but I've always got an opinion, and I'm happy to share it. I think kitchens are way up there. And Sheila, you must have something you can add to this too. Kitchens, bathrooms. I would say master bedroom might, and outdoor spaces, I guess it depends. What do you think, Sheila?
I think they're all, I read one article a while back that was talking about a few other things and put those items, those topics down a little bit. But I would say, yes, I would say outdoor spaces are surprisingly important. And a lot of times if somebody's building a home and they're going to sell it, or they're remodeling a home to sell, people can't visualize that outdoor space. So if you create that, that adds value because it's another space for living. I would also say the return on investment for kitchens and baths is always wonderful. It's always high, but there is a breaking point where if you spend too much, you're not going to get as much for return on investment. So being cautious, using your money wisely, and not just going for the top of the top and best of every, to show, but having an update, things updated, it looks clean and new and bright, but yet you're not necessarily spending top of the line for everything. That's important with both kitchens and baths. What was the other? So exterior spaces are important. What was the fourth one?
Master bedroom, I think.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
And there's a change in terminology.
Yeah.
And I'm forgetting the, Alexis, say the term.
The primary
primary, it's the primary, you might have a lot of bedrooms in a home, but the primary is the one that the, owners of the home would have. And there's generally a bathroom attached, so it's an ensuite. Having that bathroom attached, having that area updated, is something people look for. I don't know how much of that is, where that ranks in the value of return on investment. So, but it is something that's valuable. The other bedrooms, kids' bedrooms, whatever, not as much, there's not as much to do with them. So obviously.
The other interesting trend that we've seen, and specifically because of COVID, is obviously everyone being forced to be home. A lot of people wanted decks and exterior things to be able to enjoy at home specifically, and even work from, obviously, too. So that trend became a thing, but obviously forced upon by COVID. But in the other return is that more people are going to be home more often. So having somewhere that you can even go and take breaks and stuff and do while you're working from home actually is a huge benefit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think Artem has a good follow-up, right, on that.
Yeah, so my question is going to be about open concepts and weight-bearing walls in particular. It seems like before the 90s, before the open concepts kind of became a thing, it was very cool to have as many rooms as possible, as many walls as possible in the house for some reason. And so for those who own a house that was built prior to the 90s, this is probably very applicable as to what the return is on open concepts, how to deal with wall-bearing walls, and all that good stuff.
Well, I can address that to some extent. I've seen that quite a bit where I'm working on a remodeling and they want to open it up. And again, I think this is a trend right now that's maybe starting to turn around a little bit, just like following new home design. But open concept, in terms of load-bearing walls and what's the best way to deal with them, they can be opened up. Typically, every house is going to have a series of load-bearing walls, and they can be opened up, but you have to add some sort of structural beam and columns in order to carry that weight. I'm working on something right now that we're doing exactly that. Folks had just bought this house. They're sort of downsizing from, I think, a 5,000 square foot house to about 2,400 square foot house, 1,200 square feet on each floor. And they are very much wanting to open it up as much as possible. So we're removing a wall that is a load-bearing wall, and it's not that difficult just because of the spans. And I've dealt with this before. It's really not that difficult to do. In terms of the cost of doing it, it depends whether you use steel, it depends whether you use like a lumber. LVL is a lumber type product, and whether you need to incorporate additional load-bearing elements like columns and what they're made out of and all that, and where they sit. So it's kind of like a lot of different scenarios for that, and it's something that I see. Like I said, it's something that I see quite a bit, people wanting to do. In terms of the return on investment, again, if it's a trendy thing, just like white kitchens have been a real trendy thing, and I think that's starting to turn a little bit too, it's going to be perceived as a value for somebody wanting to buy the house. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So is it safe to say that a proper way to do it, to go through an architect and make sure that all the nooks and crannies are worked out properly?
Yeah, and in fact, I always use a structural engineer because some architects probably feel confident enough dealing with loads, calculating loads and all that. Maybe that's what they've done more of. I've been really more of a designer and a planner in my career, and so I always use a structural engineer just to be sure that can size the elements that need to be in there, the size of the beams, and what we're bearing on and where we're bearing on that, and does that transfer properly to the structure that's holding up the first floor. And so there's all kinds of considerations there, but I would not advise anybody to just hire a contractor and go do it unless the contractor is a turnkey operation and they have engineers on staff that can calculate that.
100% agree.
Sheila, anything to add to the open concept thing from the standpoint of design, or?
Well, I don't know that it's going to go away. I don't see us going back to a bunch of little rooms. You know, in the older homes, there were so many rooms, they were so segmented. People like a little bit of an open concept, but we have to be mindful of having spaces for people to do other things. And I think, you know, the kitchen, living space, family room can be very open, but there need to be, you know, I think every home should have a private office. I think there needs to be other areas, nooks and crannies for kids to do homework. You know, there's multiple people home at one time now. Frequently, I think that's going to remain in place for quite a while. You can create these other little spaces quite easily, taking a closet, making it a small little work area. There's furniture that you can create, desking quite cleverly. But I think the benefit of there we go, thank you. So we've got like behind the sofa, you might have a table with stools. You might have a narrow table along the wall. There's this nice looking wood slide under table. So you could be working with your iPad, your laptop at a very comfy chair. You can even be working from your bed with this little slide under desk. And then in the middle, there's a bunch of ideas for taking a closet, could be a linen closet, could be an extra closet, an alcove, and creating a workstation out of it. The one on the end is very modern. It's kind of neat with the metal door that comes down, you know, be perfect for a modern house. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, there are 4 pieces of furniture that are flexible. I think 2 are the same type of furniture where it opens up, it might lift up, and coming out of there are these little cubes that you can sit on. So you can make it into a little dining area, you know, for adults or kids or whatever, and then it goes back together. So it's another space for, you know, this might be in your basement, this might be in a den. You know, certainly it doesn't take the place of your dining room, but I thought it was kind of an interesting concept. I like this of the 4 here, the lower left, what's in the center and bottom row center. So there's a top that lifts up, so you can be sitting and it's almost like a desk. It's got storage, so everything you would need, it's like a desk in a piece of furniture. I thought that was pretty neat. And then on the far left corner, there was one where
it disappears.
It's a bookcase, and they make a workstation out of it, and that bookcase is also what holds the TV. So having furniture and elements in the design that are multifunctional. And it's so easy to do, but people don't think about it. So that's where they need a designer or architect to work with them to help them come up with these ideas.
So just to follow up on that question, we also have a question in the chat. New construction, where is the trend? We see houses larger and larger, 5,000 square feet, maybe it's 7,000 square feet. On the other side, we have those $399 mini homes, right? Almost trailer ones, and people are downsizing this. And COVID had made, you know, choices both ways, right? On one side, they wanted people to go to a larger space because now we're working from home. And we need, each one of us has a special space. And then some people are thinking less is more. What is each of yours opinion on it? Just curious on your take. Size of the home.
All right, I'm going to chime in.
Okay.
I think it's human nature, you know, a lot of times to think more is more and want bigger, larger. You know, again, it's a sort of an expression of, or a reflection of you. And then on the other hand, there are people that are wanting to downsize. There's a other solutions that are starting to emerge as well, and not so much in Wisconsin, but in some, Los Angeles in particular, they have adjusted their zoning laws to allow for accessory dwelling units, known as ADUs, if you've ever heard that. And they can be, guest houses, mother-in-law, accommodations, offices, things like that. So I'm seeing a lot of that happening. And I'm thinking that likely, because there's such an acute housing shortage across the country, that we may be seeing more of that. These are oftentimes pre-manufactured, like prefab kind of is a dirty word sometimes, but it isn't really. There's a lot of really clever solutions out there. And in terms of downsizing, I don't know, I've heard of lots of additions, but I've never heard of any subtractions in houses. So I think the trend is it just depends who you are. If you're young and you're starting a family and you're successful, you're probably not going to want to downsize. And if you're starting to age and you've come from a big home and you're an empty nester, there's a trend to want to downsize, buy a condo or a smaller home. And I'm guilty of wanting to do that as well. But that's what I'm seeing anyway.
We're also, with COVID and everything, and the prices of actually the lumber going up so high. I mean, I was tracking it for a while, and I mean, we were looking at $13,000 for a smaller home for just the lumber cost, no labor or anything, and it skyrocketed, ballooned up to like $56,000. I mean, it's pretty crazy how high and how much, we heard about it obviously, but then when you actually see it on paper, especially with new builds and things, it made a huge difference, obviously, in people's decisions between building a new home or not as well, and even potentially doing an addition. But that may have also swayed them toward doing an addition or keeping their current homes in comparison and actually renovating them instead.
Yeah, one other thing I want to add too, Jordan, you can probably add to this. At builders, there's an economy of scale that happens. The more square footage you build, there's profit in that, and there's a breaking point where if you build too small of a home, it's really discouraging for a builder to want to do that. I can understand. But that's where I think we're going to see more factory built component type homes, panelized homes. When I think of pre-manufactured homes, at least years and years ago, something like a Wausau home or a double wide, but they're way more sophisticated now. And there's more companies that are emerging, especially on the West Coast, and hopefully it'll move our way as well. So,
right. Yeah, the prefabricated walls like zip systems and things that are using spray foam more often, and things where we can actually have structural strength now that the technology just wasn't around before. I agree with you. I think that's the route that people are going to continue to go in comparison to using real woods and things like that too.
Sheila, anything to add, or shall we continue with the question?
I say continue.
Do you have another one coming?
I do. I think Jordan kind of answered it already, but with the costs of components now and building materials and shortages and things, are we seeing more additions done to homes rather than building new homes nowadays, you think?
I do think that is the trend we're going to continue to see. I mean, using COVID during that year as an example is really hard to do, obviously, because it is starting to level back out as far as the construction costs. And I do think that a lot of the people that slowly were backing off of additions because they just weren't being cost efficient at the time are starting to get back into those side of things, especially as the need is there. Because I think there's going to be a need, but then there is going to be a little bit of a shortage of actually who's going to be installing them again. Because I saw some of my more people that were handling a lot more additions, the people that I work with that hire us to do the exterior and things, they actually had started shifting interior more because of what was going on with all the wood costs.
And I guess, Sheila, what are your thoughts with your clientele? Are you going into their homes and they've built a new home, or they need help designing their newly added on sunroom?
I'm seeing the whole gamut. I believe that it is the case that there's a shortage of sites to put a new home. I think there's a housing shortage for people just looking to buy a new home. I think a lot of people are renovating, are making changes to their existing home. Some are adding on, some are just making changes so that it feels new and better and works for them. And I think, you know, if they can make their existing home work and stay in it, that, you know, it's great. They're not looking to need a home because they need 3 more bedrooms. You know, that's certainly additions can happen, but usually it's more living space. Well, sometimes it's a bedroom and a bathroom, but I see everything. I mean, I see the people that, you know, because of COVID, because people have been hunkered down, they're trying to make changes simply to live in their home, make it work for them, and continue to hunker down and enjoy their home even more. I think when people are home a lot more, they see what's missing, what's lacking, and they want to fix it because they're not out of the home as much. So I think that's been a real key. Yeah. What else?
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And kind of a bolt on to that question then too, and maybe Bill and Jordan can help with this. So if someone were thinking about adding on to their home, be it a sunroom, be it a bathroom, I realize the cost would be different and things like that. Is there kind of an average dollar per square foot for, you know, contractor grade finishing, maybe a mid-range finish and upper end finishings that, you know, people maybe attending our Zoom call here are maybe considering running a budget in there and they're curious?
I'm kind of thinking Jordan might be more qualified to answer this, but I will say that kind of on the low end, if you're adding on to something, I used to think, you know, $150 a square foot, but I think the low end now is upwards of $200 a square foot, and at the high end, well above $300 a square foot. And again, there's an economy of scale, but I think that's kind of what it sort of averages out at. But again, that's not my expertise, is in pricing this stuff. That's why I guess I would look to Jordan to agree or disagree or add or.
No, and I don't disagree by any means. I mean, you're pretty close in that way. And I guess there's such a wide range to answer that question because I mean, there's so many product lines, there's so many different things that we can do now. You know, it's not as cookie cutter, I guess, as it may used to have been. We have a lot more technology and we're getting even more technology now too. That's gonna really make that price vary so much more. So it gets really tough to try to narrow down a specific number to even give you as far as that goes, and finding the right contractor that you can trust, that you can actually have out. You know, I mean, free estimates is all we do. So, I mean, that's crazy if anybody is trying to charge for, you know, at least getting an idea for it as well.
All right, good to know. Thank you, everybody.
Another question?
I would like to ask a question. How will sustainability, eco-friendliness be a factor in new construction or renovation?
I'm thinking the 3 of us can all touch on this one.
Yep.
I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think, you know, because of the pandemic, it brought health and being well to the forefront. And I think it more than ever. I mean, we've been seeing a trend towards sustainable materials, healthy interiors, healthy living, and being respectful of our resources and trying to save energy and all of that. And I think it's just growing. It's even getting more important. I believe that the materials matter. There's more people that care about what are the materials that are going into the home. You know, what is the paint? Is it a low VOC paint? Are there materials that are going to off gas that could harm me or my children? I think all of these things are really important. I also think just having the natural light and having connection to nature. So that's where the outdoor spaces come. And that can be really important to our well-being. You know, granted, we can't be outside all year round, but but having those connections to nature is really important. I think that, so I guess that's probably all I'm going to say about that right now. So go on to you guys.
Bill, did you want? Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more important, in addition to health concerns like Sheila mentioned too. We're becoming, especially this year with the climate events that have happened, we're becoming more and more kind of fearful and mindful of how we're impacting the environment. And so the U.S. Green Building Council, you may have heard of this. There's an acronym called LEED, which is sort of guidelines for sustainable construction. And it started about 10, 15 years ago. And now most people in this field are becoming much more aware of it and becoming accredited professionals in that. And so what we think about is all the embedded energy that's in materials. So you think about concrete, or you think about steel versus wood, or fast growing bamboo is a great example of a sustainable material. And these sorts of considerations and all these different layers, not just the embedded energy, but how far away are they extracted and made? And there's all kinds of things to think about: the transportation, the pollution from that, and all that. Of course, we're going to start to get more electric as time goes on in terms of transportation, I think. But I think that it's going to be, right now, I don't think that building codes really address sustainability. But if I had to guess, I would say that in the future, and maybe the not too distant future, building codes will start to address sustainability. So it'll become something that you just think about, and you think about all the different things that you're using in ways that you didn't think about it before. So that's my 2 cents.
Definitely. No, you're right on that as well. And we're actually a big proprietor. We really end up pushing, obviously, the healthier side of things as well. We're actually teamed up with a company called Step Beyond Green to Healthy, and their whole motto is because everyone deserves a healthy indoor environment to live, work, and play in as well. And we're going to be at showcased at the Metropolitan Builders Association this weekend as well. And that's all what it's about, is starting to take that trend toward the greener side of things, but also the healthier side of things as well. And there's definitely a difference and there's a lot of that needs to be taught out there as far as what the difference is between green and healthy as well, because we've seen that it almost interchangeably, and it's not always interchangeable with each other as well. So you were nailed it with concrete and things. Silica is becoming the next respiratory concern for construction specifically as well. And within the last few years, OSHA has mandated that we cut in either a bubble or we wear respirators anytime that we're dealing with like a concrete type product as well too. And that's going to continue. That's not going away. I mean, we should have learned with the asbestos days, obviously, with my uncles and my grandfathers and things who unfortunately had to deal with that in the past. And we're really hopefully learning from that and, starting to build a better, healthier world that direction.
Thank you so much. I think we have one more question left. I don't see any more in the chat. So Curtis, go for it. I don't know if he's muted. Curtis, can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, so this is probably another question towards Jordan, and actually probably Bill will be able to answer a few of this. But are there any new window styles coming into use? Is there anything that we should be avoiding when it comes to specific windows?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I guess going back to the greener side of things as well, vinyl has been in the market for a long time now, and it's come a long way. It still has some VOCs, especially as you get into the cheaper end vinyls, and As you look into the more mass-produced vinyl manufacturers and things, you definitely have a concern with the healthier side. But we are starting to see a shift toward the fiberglass a little bit more. And supposedly, the fiberglass is going to be a little bit healthier to our environment and things as well. And as we start seeing more and more companies picking up the fiberglass and putting fiberglass lines more into their actual product mix, I think we're going to see that technology really evolve and probably grow even more. I mean, they've had fiberglass doors that, they look so close to real wood, and the maintenance is so much lower than real wood that's out there. And that doors have been around for a long time now. So with the windows being a little more functional, I guess, that's why they've taken a little bit more of time to actually adapt to that side of things. The European styles we're starting to see finally coming to our market a little bit more. And what's kind of nice is that Marvin actually, specifically one brand, they actually will end up doing a lot of different options that you don't see with all the different brands that are out there as well. And if you have an idea and you want to create, a 4-door trifold unit that folds into a wall and opens up an entire wall to the exterior of your home, you can now. And it's a doable thing. It's not just in the movies or not just, in big hotels and things like that. You can actually bring it to your home space. And obviously you pay for it, but it's definitely a technology that's pretty cool to be able to do, basically taking an entire wall down and have it open to the exterior.
Yeah, so when you say styles, that's a really good point, Jordan. That type of there's more and more manufacturers now that are making that, and that. So when I think of styles, I think of like double hung versus casement versus single hung, or an awning style window, and each of them have their place for different purposes. So I don't know if this is answering your question or not, but I mean most of the houses that are being built that are sort of under the umbrella of more traditional, typically we see double hung windows. It's a very common window style, but it just depends. Contemporary houses might have casement windows, that style, versus double hung, because it's less traditional, it's a little bit more modern, or maybe an awning style window. It's hard to nail that one. So.
Sheila, do you have a favorite style?
It depends on the architecture, but it really depends. But I love clean lines. I like things that aren't too fussy, not too many mullions and muntins. But I like casement windows. I like the ones that crank to open up, and you have a lot of air coming in. I don't know.
Awning windows are nice too. They're like casement windows. They're just hinged at the top. And what's nice about them is when you open them up, if it's raining out, it acts like an awning, hence the name. One of the things, I'm just going to throw this out there, slider windows. You don't see those too much, and they're sort of a perceived kind of lack of quality construction, I think. I associate with that, but you see them a lot out west. Like in California and the western states, the window styles there, I see a lot of slider windows, and they can be very practical too. So
we don't see that here. We see sliding doors.
We see sliding doors, but very little sliding windows. Yeah,
it's because the technology hasn't been there. They are the lowest form of energy efficiency out there. Is going to be a slider unit most of the time. And they're hinged units, so in order to actually easily clean it, you can only do it to a certain size. Otherwise, it'll put too much constraint on the actual frame itself. So that's why a lot of manufacturers, you don't see it around here as much. The energy values just don't hit the same for our big extreme changes and our big cold that we have. It's probably a little bit different when it comes to a hot situation or that type of environment.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just have a quick question, follow up on the windows. From the old days, we used to have the palladium windows, and you could go to a home and you would see the palladium, or they used to have those windows like in the kitchen where you could grow herbs and things like, I forget what those are called.
Garden window? A garden
window that always leaked. I mean, is there anything, something newer? I mean, when you saw a garden window, when you saw a palladium, you sort of knew the age of the house. Anything else coming up that is trendy?
Bays and bows, I mean, have come a long way, and being able to insulate them more and using spray foam on the bottoms and things is definitely becoming more and more prevalent. And as the technology grows too with that, you know, you can do a full laminated interior as well. So it's all, you know, sealed from that perspective. So that's a lot of times the inherent concerns with a lot of the real wood is that you put plants and things inside of there that it starts to deteriorate the wood as you know, water the plants and things like that too. So having something that's maintenance free on the inside, I think is going to be helpful as far as making those last a lot longer. And the energy value is improved, because back in the day they were cold, so not everybody would want to go with that option.
My perspective is a lot of the windows or attributes that someone might want to add to their home that people sway them away from is because it's all about installation. You know, skylights, people say, oh, don't put skylights in your house, they leak. Well, if they're installed properly, they won't. You know,
do it with the roof.
Yeah. So I think these things can be done. It's just, you have to have the correct installation and the correct product, you know.
%.
So
You're dead on. That's a great point.
If I may, I had a privilege of working on my personal projects with each one of you. And the professionalism, the knowledge, and the 5-star rating is a 10-star rating. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna stop the spotlight.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
DJ, you want to come here?
Anything else you guys want to say? I don't know why the last one doesn't remove. So Jordan, you're going to be spotlighted again.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
So we're off recording and we're off the Zoom.
I'm going to sign off. It was nice to meet all of you. And
Yeah, thank you.
Lori, Alexis, and Vadim, nice to see you all again.
Yeah.
Take care.
care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Are you still on, Alexis?
I'm going to stop recording.
Yeah.